So AP Calculus AB, we are continuing to try to make connections between the graphs of f prime, and f double prime. This specific example, we have the graph of the first derivative, and we want to see what connections we can make from the original function f and the second derivative. So I got kind of a shell here written out, try to lead us through this. So when is f prime, that's this graph, when is it less than 0? When is it negative? Well, it's less than 0 here and here on these two intervals. So that is from negative infinity to negative 2 in union with 1 to 3. So what conclusions can we draw from that about the function f? Well, that tells us that f is decreasing on these intervals. For now, let's just assume that on these intervals is written here. It's implied by this. Save ourselves a little bit of time. F prime is bigger than 0. Well, that's happening when it's above the x-axis. That's here and here. That's on the intervals from negative 2 to 1 in union with 3 to infinity. The conclusion that we can make is that f is increasing, going up. F prime changes from negative to positive here it's negative, here it's positive, here it's negative, here it's positive. So that's happening at negative 2 and positive 3. What conclusions can we make about the function f? Well, that tells us that f has a relative minimum. Well, relative minimum's plural at those same x values. F prime changes from positive to negative right here at x equals 1. What conclusion can we draw from that? Is that f has a relative maximum at x equals 1. F prime has extrema at x equals negative 1 and x equals 2. What conclusions can we draw from that? That's that f of x has points of inflection at these x values. F prime is odd degree. Well, that must mean that the antiderivative, which we haven't talked about yet, but f is going to have a degree 1 bigger than that. 1 bigger than odd is going to be even. And once again, how do I know this is odd degree? It's odd degree because the end behaviors go in the opposite directions. Let me make this a little bit smaller because it's kind of blending in just a little bit. Okay, what about f double prime? Well, f prime had extrema. We said at x equals negative 1 and x equals 2. What conclusions can we make about the second derivative? Well, the second derivative is going to equal 0 at these x values. F prime is increasing. It's increasing here and here. That's from negative infinity to negative 1. And then again from 2 to infinity. What does that tell us about f double prime? It tells us that it is positive. bigger than 0. F prime is decreasing from -1 to 2. This is an interval. So that tells us that F double prime is negative. It's less than 0 on this interval. F prime is odd degree. Subtract 1 from the exponent to make the second derivative, so it's going to be even degree. Cool, that concludes the example of us seeing the first derivative and us making conclusions about the original function and second derivative. The next example we'll do in the next video, you'll be given the second derivative and you're going to make conclusions about the original function and the first derivative.